Are you a woman of faith who is struggling to navigate your current season of life? Do you feel like life is just happening to you instead of for you? My name is Jill Pack. I'm a certified life coach and a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I want you to know that no matter your season or circumstance, it is possible to create a more joyful life. And I would love to show you how. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello, friends. Welcome to the Seasons of Joy podcast. This is episode number 27, entitled Patterns and Pathways. Before I get started, I just wanted to remind you of an awakening retreat that I am holding next month in October up in Garden City by the beautiful Bear Lake. It's an opportunity for women of faith to gather in an intimate setting to refocus, reconnect, and rejuvenate as you are navigating this season of your life. I would love to have you there, so just go to the show notes and click on the link to learn more and to sign up today. So, for today's topic, patterns and pathways, I want you to think about a time when you were driving home on a road that you commonly drive, right? You know this road well, and you get home and you realize you don't even remember the drive. The truth is you were actually on autopilot. I know I have done this, and sometimes it feels so weird. You just have no recollection. You just did it. This is the perfect example of the power of neural pathways. When we think a thought or we do a behavior, we perform a behavior, this creates what's called a neural pathway. It literally creates a groove in our brain. Every time we think this thought or we do this behavior, the pathway becomes stronger and it is reinforced. It becomes so deeply ingrained that we are able to perform many behaviors, such as driving, on autopilot. Our brains were designed to do this because it saves energy and doesn't require continual decision making. Through the practice of self-awareness, which I discussed last week on the podcast, we can discover patterns and pathways that are keeping us stuck in behaviors and thought patterns that are not serving us and ultimately not helping us to create a life we love. One way we can discover these pathways that are not serving us is to look for if-then patterns. Most of the time, we don't notice these because we do them on autopilot. Even thoughts and behaviors that are not supporting the life we want to create are often repeated because they feel safe and comfortable. They are what we know, and that feels safer than the unknown. For example, if my kids are fighting, then I yell. If I am bored, sad, or tired, then I distract myself by scrolling on my phone. If my husband is late from work, then I distance myself and I don't interact with him. If the number on the scale isn't what I would like, then I speak unkindly to myself. Do you see these patterns? These are often repeated in other areas of our life as well. And these patterns are created because we believe something that leads to an emotion that fuels our behaviors. For example, if my kids are fighting, I'm probably believing that they shouldn't. I'm believing it should be different than it is. I'm resisting what is, which is causing me to yell. I have created a neural pathway. The more I repeat this thought process, the stronger the neural pathway becomes. Pretty soon, I'm not even paying attention to the thought. I am just going straight to the pattern behavior, which is that of yelling. Feelings of boredom, sadness, or being tired feel uncomfortable. And in order to escape this discomfort, we tend to buffer with behaviors that take away this discomfort for a time. The more we buffer, the stronger the neural pathway becomes. Again, we have created a pattern and a pathway that happens by default every time we feel bored, sad, or tired. Now, if my husband comes home from work late and I'm believing that he should not be late and that he must not want to spend time with the family, this may cause me to feel frustrated. This causes me to distance myself from him. The more I repeat this pattern, the stronger the pathway. Pretty soon I'm not paying attention to what I'm actually thinking, and I just automatically distance myself from him. doing the exact thing that I am frustrated with him about. Now, stepping on the scale and believing that I will never lose weight and that something is wrong with me leads me to feel shame. This fuels negative self-talk. And every time I step on the scale and I go straight to this thought that there's something wrong with me, this reinforces the negative self-talk. Over time, these same patterns show up more often in our lives. When our children do something we don't like, it's easier to yell because we have already created that pathway. Scrolling on our phones whenever we don't want to feel something becomes easier and easier. When our husband doesn't do what we want him to do, it becomes natural to pull away and disconnect. Negative self-talk that happens around stepping on the scale will creep in at other times, such as looking in the mirror or while sitting by a pool. Behaviors such as yelling, scrolling, distancing, and shaming are behavioral patterns that keep us from creating a life we love. They are fueled by the emotions that are created by what we are thinking. If we can identify and understand the patterns we have created, this empowers us to create new pathways. Instead of operating on autopilot, we are the creators of our own life experience. One way to create new pathways is to develop supportive patterns. For example, if my children are fighting, then I remind myself it's okay and that I am the perfect mom for this. I also honor the consequences that I have put in place ahead of time from a place of love. If I feel bored, sad, or tired, then I remind myself that I'm just going to feel an emotion and nothing has gone wrong. I allow myself to feel it without scrolling. If my husband comes home late from work, then I will remind myself that nothing's gone wrong and I get to choose who I want to be. If the number on the scale is something I don't like, then I count to 5 and remind myself it's just data. One question that I ask myself in situations like these is, what looks most like love? In the example of children, right, not yelling at our children, I can actually honor the consequences from a place of love instead of anger. So it doesn't mean throwing out consequences or expectations. It's just doing it from a place of love instead of anger. And in the example of feeling uncomfortable, right, we allow this discomfort to happen instead of resisting it. And allowing our bodies to process it is actually more like love. Because when we resist it and we hold it inside of ourselves, that is not loving ourselves. In the example of the husband, right? If I can make requests all day long, and I should, but I want to do it from a place of love, not control, right? Making requests is one thing, but expecting them and trying to control what they do is another. Taking care of you by not letting your husband's actions affect your emotional health is love. Could love also look like having an open conversation? Could love also look like getting additional help from outside in order to create more time for your self-care? And finally, the example around the number on the scale, right? Love always motivates. Shame never will. So reminding yourself that you are not the number on the scale and that you are so much more is love. Now, when my kids were younger, years and years ago, I wanted a clean house. I craved schedules and routine. With 5 little ones, that was sometimes difficult. But I wanted everything in its place. And sadly, I remember yelling at my children over dirty clothes, messy rooms, and scattered toys. But once I began yelling, it creeped into many of other interactions that I had with them. It became easier to yell. But as I began to uncover that problem thought, the thought that was causing my yelling pattern, then I could change it. And it was thoughts like these. They should keep their room clean. They should do what I say. They should have clean rooms. They should want clean rooms. I can't believe they don't care. I've taught them better than this. You get the idea. Those thoughts that I was believing that they should be different than they were is what was causing me the problem and creating this pattern for myself. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I shouldn't have expected them to clean their space or be responsible for their things. Of course, I wanted to expect that. However, I was actually arguing against what was, and then I was letting this control my emotions. I believed that my children were causing my anger and frustration. This was not true. It was my belief that they should be different. Now, I could have enforced rules and consequences without the anger or the frustration. I could have parented in those moments from a place of love. This was a painful but powerful lesson for me. However, as I discovered this pattern, I have been able to create a different pathway. Yelling is no longer a deeply traveled groove in my brain. I have created a pathway of curiosity instead of frustration and love instead of anger. I want you to think, what are some patterns that you see in your life that you wish were different? Pay attention to how you show up day to day. What do you notice? Is there something that you could change? Once you discover this pattern, try to uncover the thought behind it and then question it, poke holes in it, replace it, and with something that will pave a new pathway. This is all I have for you today. I'm so glad you were here. Thank you for joining me. Thank you so much for listening. If you like what you hear, I would love it if you would share it with your friends and family and leave me a rating and review. If you'd like to learn more about what life coaching is, please schedule a free discovery call with me where we can work together through something that's causing you a problem. Just go to my website, seasons-coaching.com, and you can also find information about my Seasons of Joy one-on-one coaching program and my Seasons of Joy community. Have a joyful week, and I'll see you next time.